The Kultcha.
Podcast.
The Kultcha.
Podcast.
You know, it's still
Wake
a drop.
your punk ass up. Wake up.
You know what I mean? It's still a drop. It's still a drop. It's still a drop. You don't have to say podcast.
Huh?
You don't have to say podcast.
I want to say podcast because we got a series.
Being funny.
I know that. No doubt. It'd be funny.
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah, what up? It's your boy, Alley Cat.
And I'm the infamous twin,
And we are the Kultcha.
the podcast.
Today's episode is domestic terrorism.
That's right.
And if
That's
you don't know
right.
what domestic terrorism is, let me break it down to you.
Yes, sir.
You're born in this country, the crimes, or how would you say, the mass shootings that
Definitely.
are done by the same citizen as you. Where do you want to start?
I mean, domestic terrorism is something deep because it's homegrown. You know what I'm saying? It's birthed right here wherever your home is at. So a lot of people think terrorism is just terrorism. That's why we're talking today specifically about domestic terrorism,
Domestic
right?
terrorism, and
Yeah.
like he said, it's homegrown. Like some of y'all that smoke that Babbage weed, and y'all can relate to it. So let me give you a little knowledge on what's going on today. It's been going on. The only thing that's new is cameras. Lights, camera, action. So you know, domestic terrorism started. It could start with the police. You know what I mean?
Oh,
One
yeah.
of the biggest gangs in
Oh,
America.
Yeah.
It could start with your own people.
Definitely.
And some of them not really your people. They're masked as your people. They come in peace to leave you in a state of confusion and have you weak and incompetent and not prepared to be prepared for yourself, to arm yourself and do what you have to do to protect yourself.
No doubt.
So now, within going into this topic, I mean,
My mindset is this, right? Like, how to start it off, like, I always think about how can you catch a domestic terrorist? You know what I'm saying? Like, do we do gun background checks? Do we, do computer background checks? Like, at what point, when it's homegrown in your own country, your own city, your own town, how can you look at a person and determine whether they're gonna be a terrorist or not, domestically?
you could never determine
'Cause I always
that.
think
I don't
about
think
it.
you could determine that.
Yeah, it's hard, right?
Yeah, it's real hard.
it's
But
hard.
you know, they have all these things now where they even want you to have a real ID come 2020. October, I think somewhere in October 19th or something like that next year, you have to have a real ID.
Now, no doubt, because this topic been ongoing for years.
Yeah.
Forever. So, when I think about the Walmart incidents, I mean, and what do you think about different demographics? Because I like to think of demographically. Like, if it's a Walmart shooting, we kind of know what color may be trying to shoot up a Walmart or something like that. Is these crimes close in proximity to where they live, domestic terrorism? I think so. You know what I'm saying? They don't really go really far out to create a domestic terrorism act. Do you understand? And that's also came in not too long ago too. They also implemented the act with domestic terrorism that came in. But it always happened in close proximity. What damage does I feel and believe that it has effect on a town? Like, it have very dramatic effects on a town. It could be a college student. It could be somebody working for federal. It could be somebody working for a government job. It really doesn't matter.
Well, I'll be honest, a lot of domestic acts of violence when it comes to
Right.
domestic terrorism, it's not usually so. I mean, and then they get walked out. No disrespect, nobody. They get walked out and get taken to Burger King, or maybe Popeyes to go get that new chicken sandwich. A black man do some domestic terrorism, he might not even make it out alive.
And do we believe as a people that the reasons are different for, different acts of domestic terrorism? Like back then you had the Unabomber, who was a domestic terrorist, and you had all these other people back then who also created these same acts. But the reason, when I look at the reason, it's quite different, Like, I really think that definition of domestic terrorist is to me under something of a direct reason why they would be acting this way,
Well, a lot of them use it's a borderline racism, and it's not borderline. It's really put out there as racism, and that's how I look at it. Because every time you look at it, it's some kind of racism.
Right.
It's either the race of people they go kill,
Right.
or it's the religion. Some go for Jews, some go for Muslims, and a lot of the times they blame it on Muslims.
Yeah, look at the shooting in Carolina, the church.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
Breaking it down, they do so much, and it happens so much. But now, like I said, the cameras is out. You can't just sweep it under the rug no more. So, it's getting deep.
Yeah, yeah. I think domestic terrorism. A lot of these people who commit these crimes, I think there's a web of them. They usually describe these people as, you know, individuals who may be, you know, sick or didn't take their medicine or something like that, or have something mentally ill people, right? So they usually say it's somebody who's mentally ill that create these crimes. You know, I don't think so. I think it's a web of them that communicate all together, and I think at certain points in times and years, the dark web.
Wow.
The dark web.
Darker than this shirt.
Hey, we know why they call it the dark web, right?
But you notice something, right? All the intelligence and intel that they have,
right?
You notice when something happens, they catch them, and they catch them right away. And that's mind-boggling because they say, "Oh, we was following, we was paying attention." So why you didn't stop them before the crime? Because it wasn't a crime. And then you got to look at some of these things, laws and statutes. And I'm not a lawyer, but wouldn't you want to say some of this is entrapment?
Definitely.
Because you
definitely.
You know, so
it is entrapment, especially when, you know, you don't do background checks on certain demographic of people, and I feel like they always could get away with these domestic terrorist acts. You understand? Like if you go to what they consider the all-white school, what I consider the all-white school, that's what I call it, you'll see that there's no metal detectives. You know, older people just could walk in and out the school. Students who was expelled, who used to go to that school, could go in and out the school. When we talk about the Columbine or anything like that, these things happening in Colorado.
But you notice one thing. In the urban community, well, the black community, in our schools growing up, you couldn't be a trespasser.
Nah,
you had to have IDs. You was thoroughly watched it, and a lot of security knew who their students was. Teachers knew who the student was, and they would somewhat notice a trespassing.
Oh no doubt, and they know what caliber of student they was.
And if they wasn't
too.
sure, they would still ask you. Hey, let me get your ID. So, you know, you go in different neighborhoods. They open up with arms. Hey, come on in. Open arms.
Especially the suburban neighborhoods.
Yes.
You know, and you know, some of these kids, they draw horrendous stuff of maybe, you know, them shooting, killing their parents or shooting up the school. They drawing pictures, and the teachers or the people, the authority at school don't go into act about these things. You know what I'm saying?
Not at all.
Related to our schools.
It's all
in the urban community.
It all starts psychological.
I mean, no doubt.
So if you see that drawing, you should have thought about it. You hear the conversation.
So at the end of the day, it is mental.
Yeah, it is mental.
They do have mental issues.
All of it is mental. I would say. Right. Even when you're dealing with, everything is mental. You want that girl, and you want to holler at her, and you want to get the skins, or however you want to call it, or you want to, you know what I mean, hit that thought pocket. You know what it is. I mean, it's all mental. These thoughts, and you can say, listen, I want this, you're going to go get it. You say, I want to do something, it's all mental. And, you know, they have sociopaths, they have narcissists. I mean, you have all these breakdowns of a personality. But you know a personality from jump. A parent knows his child or her child. Especially if you're dedicated and you're really in their life. You know, you always heard that saying, yo, listen, I know when you're lying, boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might do a certain move or twitch, so you could tell. So I think everything should start at home.
No, everything.
And then when you go to school, and them role models, because they become your new role models, which goes back into education, episode 2. Check it out if you haven't checked it out already. Even though we don't do episodes.
No. Check it out. It's labeled.
It is episode. Season 1, episode 2. You have to label it for people that need structure. See, that also goes into a mentality of psychological. People need structure. Everything in life is structured. So when I say season 1, episode 2, they needed that structure, because if we drop and we 3 years in, they're gonna say what episode that is. Because they wanna relate it to. It's like a library. So
when we talking about structure, do domestic terrorism, do you think that have to be there in communities? Do you think these things must happen? Do you think they trying to put back in order that they think something is out of order in society?
I do think so.
I think so a little bit. Don't quote us on that though, but a little bit, you know? Yeah. Because, you know, they may not agree with politicians, maybe some laws, or maybe, you know, their communities feel like their own community is not helping them. So they feel like they must.
Cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance, definitely.
And if you don't know what the meaning is, that is when your mind has a ruling. I'm gonna give you my definition of it, because we all should have our own definitions to define who we are and what we're doing and how we come to an understanding.
I totally agree with that.
So, That's what they came up with, their thought. And once you challenge their thought process, it becomes a problem.
And if you don't want to look at what cognitive dissonance is, we talked about it in the gentrification episode. So take a look back at the gentrification episode.
Episode 3. You know, like episode. I'm doing that purposely. Episode 3, season 1. Let's go.
Right. So it's harder to classify or even know who's going to be a domestic terrorist because you can't really know who's doing it, right? Unlike these urban communities that we live in, including myself, right? Everybody is that target. Everybody seems like they're in the category of terrorism.
Well, we are because we're being terrorized. Well, when I was growing up, we was being terrorized. And it still goes on today. We was being racially profiled and terrorized by officers. And, you know, that's a form of domestic terrorism.
Yes, talk about the history. Yes.
So, you know, I got slammed on cars, you know, or because we all dressed like, oh, you look like, and oh, you fit the description. You know, they say all niggas look alike. And I don't consider myself a nigga because I'm not ignorant. And I don't walk around here dumb, deaf, and blind.
Yes.
But to a person that's not from my community, to come into my community and police it, he doesn't understand me. But now they have the new ruling in New York City. I mean, it's been going on for a while. You have to live in the city to work in the city as an officer. But a lot of them never really was from my neighborhood. So how would they understand my neighborhood? You had a few that got lucky and came through.
Nah, I mean, domestic terrorism, like, continuing to what he's saying about the history of it. I mean, even the KKK is a local domestic terrorist organization that been planted in America since, you know, slavery begun. You know, yes, we used to call cops slave catchers, as I always say.
But that's what cops were.
Yeah, slave catchers. Yeah.
The first police was slave catchers.
Nah, no doubt.
Police and the slaves. And I mean, you know, the domestic terrorism goes so far because it's also funded.
I mean,
it is also funded.
I mean, for order for them to get the weapons and the stuff that they need to create terrorism on local people, it have to be funded.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about it. I mean, where does the mindset come from? You know, where do they get the mindset from? You know, in order to be a domestic terrorist, you have to relate to something, right? In order to have that mindset, right? Because ain't nothing new under the sun, right? Right? We all learn from each other.
You just put your own twist on it.
Right. So when it goes into their room or when it goes into these people's history or their life or their house, they find the same, it's kind of the same thing repeating itself. You see episodes on YouTube of Kultcha Klan episodes that they was watching. Adolf Hitler post on the wall, his books.
Yeah.
You know, it comes back to the same thing.
GoFundMes.
Yes.
And they understand where it goes. It goes so deep.
Yeah, it do.
And let me give you how deep it goes. You need to pay attention to the cartoons that your children are watching, because that's how deep it goes. You know, they have the good versus bad. Then they have some of them that the bad you don't even realize it's bad. Because it's funny, and it makes it seem like it's good. Nah,
no doubt. Like when you look at Louis Farrakhan, they flagged all his videos and trying to get him banned from, you know, being on YouTube and stuff like that.
And being straightforward and transparent.
Right, but then you got domestic terrorists. They could go on these same platforms and look up something similar to what they believe in, all right, to get their job done or, you know, go through with their job.
And if y'all don't understand what I mean when I'm rubbing the back of my hand, I'm saying I'm stating color.
Yeah.
I'm stating color.
Yeah, so what do we think, right? So y'all hit us up, you know, IG, on the YouTube about, you know, what we're saying so we can relate back to y'all. But as I think of it domestically in my own urban neighborhood, I don't really think of too many people being a domestic terrorist in my own neighborhood.
Listen, it goes so deep, domestic terrorism, they have so close of a watch. They have Facebook watching you because you volunteer all your information. We can't even get a Facebook page to Kultcha because we can't even pass security clearances. And I'll screenshot it and put it out there. And we fold it out just to have the page for the Kultcha. So listen, man, this is a deep thought.
Yes.
For y'all ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
We're not even going to keep this podcast long. We're going to do this one only 15 minutes because we want your reaction so we could come back with another episode because we want your thoughts. So like I said, and like he said, you could DM us on The Kultcha, DA_KULTCHA.
YouTube,
on IG.
The Kultcha.
Right here, The Kultcha.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Check
Instagram,
it out.
YouTube. I mean, we answer back everybody to the best of our ability. The Instagram is just building up, so You know, we at a couple of hundred. Maybe one day we'll get to a couple of million. But please hit the follow button. Please subscribe. We dropping jewels. And if you don't feel we dropping jewels, hey, let us know something. You know what I mean? Knowledge is infinite. It's always going to grow every day. It's like the water. It just keeps running. You know what I mean? I'm Alley Cat.
I'm Twin.
We out.